is probably the simplest 5 or 6 ingredient Saag Paneer that you will see happening. It is a recipe from my Spices and Seasons Cookbook. So what I have going on here is I have oil that I'm heating. What I want to do is get the oil nice and really hot, so that when I add in the spices, which the first spice that I'll be adding in is cumin seeds, I want them to sizzle. So let's see what. So what's happening now is, yes, the seeds are sizzling and I have some truly instant fragrance. So cumin seeds are in. Next thing I want to do is add in chopped diced red onions. Yes, that's quite a lot. So I have about 1.5 medium onions that I have finely diced and I've added it in. So we'll let this do its cooking. So really what I do is in this is add onions, ginger, garlic, tomatoes, and finish off with garam masala. That's kind of it. And for the saag paneer, I'd actually made paneer last night. You can use your own, you can use any kind of paneer that you want. It's a very simple dish, great for a nice cold day. And since this version is getting so much flavor from the aromatics, the only thing that you really need to do is make sure that you are taking the time to cook your aromatics slow and slow. And typically, while saag paneer is vegetarian and gluten-free, if you want to make it vegan, you pretty much will sub the yogurt with something like coconut yogurt or soy yogurt, and you can sub the paneer with tofu. It's beginning to turn kind of pale golden. You want a little more color, and then the next 2 ingredients that go in are minced garlic and minced ginger. And what I've used to mince the ginger and garlic is just a sharp microplane grater. So overall, the onions will take somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes to brown. And as I said before, this is what will take you the longest time in this recipe. So we've gotten a little more browning. And probably need about 2 or 3 more minutes to get this to where I'd like it. And you know what's happening, what I'm smelling is the cumin that I've toasted. I mean, just one spice and there is a lot of aromatic action going on. So if you look at this, the onions actually turned a few shades darker. And at this point, what we want to do is add in the minced ginger. And the minced garlic. And onions, ginger and garlic are very commonly used, particularly in North Indian cooking, to give you a deep flavor base. Now the reason why I added in the ginger and garlic later is they tend to cook a little bit quicker than the onion does, and they release a little more water. So it would prevent the onion from browning the way I would want. And the onions actually have reduced considerably. What I have here is spinach. I'm using baby spinach that's been pre-washed. So really you don't need to do much with it because I'll be building this and kind of using an immersion blender to chop it up. And I can tell this is getting done because you also can see the ginger is sticky. So what's happening here is as it's cooking along, this is cooking down and you can see bits and pieces of this sticking to the pan. And this has darkened considerably. In fact, I think I'm kind of happy with where this is. So at this point, I'm adding in tomatoes. This is chopped canned tomatoes. And we want some salt. And a little bit of cayenne pepper. This is to taste. So now the longer you let this cook, the deeper the flavors work. It's not like you need 20 different spices to get that deep flavor. What you do need is a little bit of patience and time to allow it to come together. And what I do and suggest in all my cookbooks is this base. Kind of make it a head because it's a base for a lot of Indian dishes, especially the popular ones like Saag Paneer, like Chana Masala. Chicken curry too, actually. So I'm going to give this about 2 or 3 more minutes. And really what will go in next is the spinach. And what I'm using, instead of using just heavy cream, I am using yogurt. It's homemade yogurt. And a little bit of cream on top. Now there are a couple of things. The reason I'm doing that, obviously yogurt's better for you than heavy cream. It also gives you a depth of flavor. Yogurt has especially homemade yogurt, has a nice gentle tang. And interestingly enough, at the first iteration, I was just smelling the cumin. What I am now smelling is the ginger and garlic. They are the more predominant flavors. The key to knowing that your spice base is done and will taste nice in your curry is you should smell a harmony of flavors. If a single flavor, when you've added more than 1 or 2 spices, is dominating, it's not quite yet done. Putting together the base of a curry like this is like any kind of a harmonious relationship. One flavor should not dominate. What I actually do with something like this is I let it cook and I busy myself doing something else, because the tendency is when you're watching any kind of pot that's cooking, you have a tendency to want to rush it. And really, it's not like there is a difference between 15 to 20 minutes of cooking versus 2 minutes. It's really 3 or 4 extra minutes that makes a difference. However, when you're watching and want to get it done, that 3 or 4 minutes feels closer to the 20 or 30 minutes. And what's really happening at this point, again, the flavors are melding together. This mixture is coming together. You can see some chunkiness, and here's the thing, while I will use the immersion blender for this, a home-style version of this does not really need a blender. I mean, you can do this with the spinach just wilted in, and that's fine too. I think I'm beginning to feel that we're in a good place. And really what I'm doing, in addition to looking at this, I'm actually letting the smell guide me. Remember when I told you a few minutes ago that I was smelling a fairly prominent amount of ginger and garlic? At this point, really what I'm smelling is a very fragrant base, but there is none of the single ingredients dominating the flavor. Alright, so now I added spinach. See, so I have about almost a pound of baby spinach, a little over that, but you know what, there is no too much spinach in this dish, and I'm using spinach in season. I use any greens that I have on hand. The important with this is you don't want the tomato base to dominate. You want enough spinach in there. And you cook the spinach until it's just wilted. Now, vegetables like this have a lot of water. You do not need to add in extra water. In fact, adding that in thins the sauce and dilutes the flavor unnecessarily. And as you can see, most of my spinach is wilted. And at this point, I'm actually turning off the heat briefly, mostly because you want the heat to cool down. So you want the heat to cool down a little bit before I use my immersion blender. See, all that spinach, as you can see, has wilted down to not very much. And at this point, I'm throwing in my yogurt mixture. Again, you can just stir it in and use it at this point, but really I think I'm doing an in-between. I don't like it pureed very finely, but smooth. Done, folks. The next thing that it gets in is the paneer. And finally, this is finished with garam masala, that is homemade garam masala. The recipe is also in the Spices and Seasons Cookbook. Oh, that smells very good.